You are listening to the Purpose of Money podcast, a podcast where we talk about ways to build wealth and create more freedom in your life today. I am your host, Acquania Escarne. Hey guys, welcome back to the Purpose of Money podcast. I'm super excited today because on the show, I have Chef Kari Heron, who is a content queen and lifestyle consultant who is bringing good food, wellness, and a lifestyle brand to everyone across the globe. She is currently living in Aruba, and we had the pleasure of meeting each other when I went to the Happy Island. But she has lived in several countries, becoming an award-winning chef, also a radio and TV personality, and the host of Thrive with Kari. She has a wonderful story. We're going to talk about how she built wealth after divorce, and as a single mom has managed to maximize and monetize her talents and has the power to never give up. Because honestly, Kari is Oprah Winfrey, B. Smith, and Martha Stewart in one, a woman led by the Holy Spirit with the amazing ability to bring families and friends together over good meals and quality time. Kari, welcome to the Purpose of Money podcast. How you doing today?
So happy to be with you. Thank you for having me, Acquania.
Yes, this is such a pleasure because we had a great time together in Aruba. And I have to be honest, you were one of the best chefs I've ever hired for my family vacations, but you are more than a chef. So use this time now to tell my listeners more about the woman behind Kari and your lifestyle brand.
Well, I moved into this space almost accidentally. I was born, bred, and fed in Jamaica. So I'm a Caribbean girl through and through. And my premier background is actually in communication. And so I started out learning those arts, doing that, developing those skills. And so that was really the foundation. But I've always loved food. And I moved from the Caribbean. I went to Turks and Caicos, and then I moved to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai, to get married to my ex-husband. And one of the things that brought us together, apart from the fact that we were very close friends, was that he was a chef, and it was a food or passion for food as well that was rather exciting. And I created the brand Chef and Steward in Dubai. And it was a merger of our interests and our skills. And it was really about helping people, serving people the good life. Because I found that food was a really great way to create a common denominator, even in situations where people are coming from very different angles, speaking different languages. It's like the Town of Babel, not being able to understand each other. But the common language that we have as human beings is that of sitting, breaking bread, eating together. So food for me is not just a means to an end, but it's also a passage to be able to help people to build connections and to build and strengthen relationships. So I use food to do those things.
I love it. I love it. And you've built a growing business. Chef and Steward is celebrating 10 years and 5 countries, being a mom and going through a divorce. So you said that you launched your business in Dubai when you were married to your husband. What was it like for you as an entrepreneur to have to transition to running it alone and going through a divorce at the same time?
Well, Chef and Steward was really, the brand was both of us, but it was one person who was always doing the work behind the scenes anyway. So that part hadn't changed. But in terms of the positioning, I found that I had to ease myself, reconfigure the positioning in terms of Chef and Steward, because as it started out, he was a chef and he had become an executive chef during the duration of our marriage as well. And I was a steward. So when that chef position was no longer there, then what happens? What becomes so? And it's this existential crisis that we have even when we get married, as well as when we uncouple in divorce, because everything changes. So what is Chef and Steward? What is the whole thing about? And so I had to look at what it is that the brand meant. And I created this brand. It was created with all the right intentions. And, at the point when we started, because this is our 10th-year anniversary at Acquania. So Chef and Steward was started at the point where I actually had a miscarriage, and it was the vehicle that helped me to get through that process. It was a creative process. And also it was from Chef and Steward that I was able to get contracts in Dubai, working with Taboola, the largest kitchen and table fine retailer. It's like the Williams Sonoma or the Bloomingdale's kitchen department of the Middle East. And so I had directed marketing for them as well. I had things like Martha Stewart coming to the store, and we had live tweets and so on. That was like 10 years ago, that was wonderful. So you have all of these things. How do you adjust that now from plural to singular? So a lot of things I had to look at. That's one of the great things about actually going and developing my skills and getting trained as a coach. And I did that really to coach myself. Because leadership is really about leading yourself first, and then because once you become the example, then others can follow suit. So I went and I invested heavily in Dubai to become a certified coach as well as an NLP practitioner, because I wanted to get the skills to be able to carve my own. And so one of the things I did was I looked at what Chef and Steward really meant and how it would transition from that plural to that singular. And the mission still continues. The work still continues. I mean, do we give up simply because life changes? No, we move on. And that's the essence of this thing. No matter how hard it gets, as long as there's life, there's hope.
I love that. As long as there's life, there's hope. That's beautiful. And I agree with you. And I know that you have some other motivation. You are a mom. So how does your son feel about you running your lifestyle brand? I've even seen on social where he sometimes helps you cook in the kitchen. But what other valuable lessons are you teaching him as a mom who is also an entrepreneur?
I'm teaching him about money. I'm teaching him about wealth. And that's mindful. If I'm doing something and there's money to be collected, I let him collect the money. I want him to be able to hold the money, to receive the money. And if there's change to be given, I want him to put the change away. I also give him, so he knows. In fact, what was really very interesting, and this is the power of being the example to children rather than teaching them the skills. I heard him say to somebody who had lost his job, did you ever think that you don't have to look for it in the pandemic? Did you ever think that you don't have to be looking for a job, that you could actually create your own job at 7 years old? In fact, he probably was 6 at the time. Not coming from me, but it's what he had witnessed his mother doing, the ingenuity, the ability to actually create, work, and get paid in the process. So yes, he is my biggest why. And that's one thing I think that motherhood gives us a different kind of motivation. When our kids need us in a specific kind of way, we have to, and we have the ability, the God-given ability, the Proverbs 31 ability to show up in the ways that it really matters to our children. And so we just have to step into those roles. And so, yes, he has been learning about wealth, learning about generating income, I'm teaching him also about saving money. So sometimes he wants to give me money. Do you have enough money for that? All of these things. And I said, listen, I don't want your money now. I want you to invest. I'm giving you money now. When I give you money, that money is for you to invest. When you invest your money, he says he wants a puppet. He wants to buy a puppet. He wants to buy a puppet for his friends, which is this new toy. I said, what about you investing in the puppet company and becoming an owner of the puppet company, as opposed to you wanting to buy. So I'm teaching him that money, because a lot of parents give kids money for buying things or buying candy. I give him money to teach him to save, to invest. I'm still going to start teaching him how to actually be able to spend a little bit on himself so that there's a little bit of balance. But the primary relationship I wanted to cement with him was the ability to invest, to put it aside, to get joy from seeing money accumulate rather than looking at the emptiness, from month to month. So, yeah, these are the things that motivate me.
I absolutely love that. I love the tips for how you're educating him about money and keeping him involved in the business. I tell people all the time, the way that you can really get your children to understand wealth and entrepreneurship is to put them in the center of it all. Let them see you working, let them see you operate, and give them small roles that they can accomplish so that they feel like they contributed to the family's success. I also appreciate what you said about encouraging him to have balance between saving and investing while he spends a little bit too. I think kids definitely need to learn the importance of spending money because you don't want them to feel like they can't live, they can't use the money they work so hard to get. But at the same time, when you balance it with saving and investing, there's a gratification process that they learn, learning how to be delayed in some times so that you can have more at the end of the journey. So that's really important. And the earlier you do that, the better, because I notice a lot of kids today, they want it now, they want it yesterday, and they're not used to waiting. They don't really understand the value in working hard to accomplish something because so much is just readily available. The internet, you just Google it and the answer is there, and that's just not how life works. So those are amazing, amazing techniques that you're using with your son. I want to pivot a little bit to talk about your lifestyle brand and how your amazing website. I went to it. I look at the food, I get hungry, but then I also just feel you in everything that's there, video, the pictures, because I know you're a photographer too. You're just a creative being. How did you really transition your business to market it to bigger brands? I want to give some tips to some of my listeners who are struggling to understand how do they take their blog and turn it into a lifestyle blog that other businesses would like to invest in?
Well, that's a really great question. And because I started out in communication and I started out in marketing, I already had agency side branding experience and public relations and marketing. As well as brand side, working within the brand. So I was able to understand both and coming as well from journalism, understanding how to deal with media, how to position for all of those things. So the first thing I did when I created Chef and Steward was a portfolio for me to display my skills in writing, my skills in photography. And from then I pitched to two publications in the UAE, the Gulf News publication and Khaleej Times. And I got, both editors were interested in actually having me on board as a contributor for Food and Lifestyle column, which I had named When Hunger Strikes, which is like, tongue in cheek, When Hunger Strikes. And one gave me one. I wanted a weekly column, so I signed with Khaleej Times because they were offering it to me weekly, and so I did that for 7 years. And what that did was it allowed me to create credibility in a journalistic context in a new territory. I already had established journalistic integrity in the Caribbean, having been in media since I was 16, and president of the International Association of Business Communicators by 27 and all those things. But this was a new territory to me. I was a woman of color who was not known by anybody but myself and my ex-husband at the time. And so I put my work out there and allowed my work to speak for itself. And we also had a very small but very close food blogging community. And so once that happened, then I started approaching brands, because so it was a step where I had the blog to show the display of because I was applying for jobs, nobody was responding. It was the middle of that's when the crash had just hit 2009 in the UAE. And people were leaving cars at the airport in droves and just leaving all their bills running from being locked up in debtor's prison. So I had just arrived. Everybody was clamping down. I had to show people who I was as opposed to just talk about what I could do. And that's what the blog created, that open door for people to see my portfolio that was in live and in living color in ways that I could not portray it in a resume. Once I got the column then what I did was I was the one who approached Tavola first. And I approached them as a consultant. And after 6 months of working with me, I helped to redefine their whole digital marketing. Because by then I had experience in blogging and digital marketing, plus all of the experience that I had coming in with communication and so on and marketing. And so I completely rebranded their online force and helped to market and to position them as a foodie haven of the Middle East. And that was so successful that after 6 months, they were like, listen, Kari, we need you on board full term. And so they brought me on board. So that was the first thing. So the first association was a consultancy. Then they took me on board. And then my blogs started to get in the background because I was busy building their brand. And while I was doing that, I was happy to do that because I was happy to be able to actually feel, because I'm a working girl, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to feel like I'm adding value, and my talents and skills and education that I've spent a lot of time and effort in are being used effectively. But I also realized that I was building somebody else's brand again. I've worked on so many international brands by this point: Blue Cross, Blue Shield, so banks, all different things, telecoms, international communications and telecoms brands, and fast-moving consumer goods, all of these things. And I'm like, but it's still not mine. I mean, I want my own baby. And so what I've now come to do is to realize that I need to figure out what Chef and Steward wants to do, and then find brand associations that will help Chef and Steward do what Chef and Steward wants to do, while still positioning the brands where they want to go as well. So you have to find brands that have synergy with yours. So I don't go, and integrity and credibility mean everything to me, and that's from my journalistic background. Ethics is everything. So I don't go and do something that I can't stand behind. If I can't stand behind it, no bother. No, not for $1. I'm not selling my Gucci dress for cheap China prices, neither. So I will do stuff for free. I believe in corporate social responsibility, but it is my right to decide when I want to engage in charity activities. Doing work for exposure with brands who are getting paid is not it for me, darling. So no, I don't work for free as well. And a lot of people will approach you and ask you to do stuff for free. It depends. If it's in a magazine where you're getting, or a publication where you're getting exposure, then that makes sense. In terms of, when I say exposure, in terms of literally your work is being used in a feature, then that makes sense to some extent. But not all the time. It just depends on the context. So I approach different brands. Just yesterday, I started just this month, a new partnership with Do It Center, Do It Best. And that's also a great synergy with my lifestyle brand, because they do everything from food to home, from renovation to groceries to decoration and everything. And I've signed a content deal for the next 6 months with them, because I was able to show them what I do, how I've done it, who I've done it with, the brands I've worked with in the past. And I have a track record that speaks for itself. And we cannot be intimidated to present. I've done so many presentations. I've gotten so many doors closed in my face, Acquania, and I need to make that abundantly clear. I'm operating still in a foreign country as an expatriate. And there are so many things that people don't trust about foreigners because they don't know you. They don't know you. They don't trust you, especially in a space as small as Aruba, where people tend to go with people who they know or who their grandmother or cousins know and so on. So, but you can't allow the no's to stop you, because every door that's closed only leads you closer, one step closer to a door that will open. So you have to have that indefatigable desire to really actualize the vision that God has given you for yourself and for your life and for your business.
Amen to that. I can't agree with you more, because you only need one yes. Like, you can have all these no's, but that one yes could propel your business to the next level. And you mentioned how you were consistent. You utilized your expertise in education to really level yourself in a position where you could take advantage of brand partnerships, opportunities, and then prove to everyone that you were worth the investment. And I love the fact that you talked about using your blog and your website to build credibility. I talk about that a lot, and there's more than one way to do it. Some of my clients will build credibility through writing a book or coaching and getting testimonials from individuals who work with them. There's so many ways that you can build your credibility, but once you have the proof, use that to your advantage to attract more successful partnerships. So thank you for sharing those tips, because I think that's really helpful for my entrepreneurs listening today. And it's also good for me. I do have one quick follow-up question though. When it comes to you, you have the background in education and communications, but if someone doesn't have that expertise offhand, do you recommend that an entrepreneur invest in hiring several people to fill these same roles? Or is there another way they should go about it? Like say prioritization. If you are on a budget and you can't hire everyone at the same time, where do you start?
That's a good question. It depends on really where the kinks are. And that's also one of the things I bring to my coaching as well. Like I'm able to help people in so many fundamentally different ways. And I don't do a lot of coaching because it's not necessarily the foundation, the complete element of my business, but it's a desire in me to teach. It's like a calling to teach and to be a mentor to others as well. But yes, if you need to speak your way to success and your tongue is tied, sometimes you need to help somebody to untie that tongue. So we have to be able to gauge where it is that the needs are and to be able to actualize. Another thing I want to also point out, and this is very important, especially for those of us who are operating small business, is the power of community and the power of barter. If we can find really great groups of people with complementary skills and do for each other, barter or skills for each other. So for example, somebody is great in one area, somebody is great in another area. So we're building each other. So the barter could be a trade with cash, but it could also be a trade with services so that we're able to help and build. And that's one of the things that I feel that we ought to look into much more as well, as a creative way of making investments in companies where we're financially strapped. So we want to improve our skills, but our hands are tied in terms of the finances. How can we help each other to do so together? Because you may have what I need and you have what I need. And so we can,
I definitely do. And I've learned so much through my network. I've even found opportunities through my network, because there's also the possibility that your network will lead you to paying business. So then you can pay the person you really want to work with. So sometimes we have to get creative and have those conversations and be transparent about what we need. I tell people all the time, people can't help you if they don't know what you need. And so you have to be in the circles talking about what's most important to you, your business, and even where your shortfalls are, and then allow that network to come to serve you. And in the same sense, you need to serve them. So if other people in the community make the same ask and you can help them, extend a helping hand. So I love that, because I have gained so many referrals in my business, from life insurance to partnerships or even podcast guests, because I've been very vocal in my community where I'm like, I need this, I need that. Like when I first started this podcast, I didn't know how to get started, but in my network, I had a podcast guru who was ahead of me in the game, and she knew exactly how to get started and who to work with. And she even was one of my first guests. So shout out to Danielle Desir, the host of The Thought Card, because she is now my business bestie. And we met at a conference, right? And so in the beginning, our relationship was purely, let's get to know each other and let's network together. So we even went to a networking event and we divided and conquered. And then we came back together and was like, who did you meet? Who did you meet? Let's exchange their cards, information, and even pitch them if they are better suited content creator for you. Because at the time I had a much larger freelance writing business. And so we traded freelance writing contacts because there were some people she met that I would be a good fit for. And there were people I met that she would be a good fit for. And I feel like women need to understand, especially that it's collaboration is cooperation over competition, right? So let's collaborate, let's really build each other up. And so we all win because there's enough money, there's enough people, there are enough customers. There is no reason why we cannot come up together. Right? So
you're taking me to church preaching today.
I always got to drop a little word when I hear like, wait, this is a great moment.
Absolutely. Yes. Because, and I think that's the key thing that's actually stopping many of us from being able to scale, because we need each other to kind of, it's like that moment where the crab's in the barrel and then we could all stay there, or we could all decide that we're going to link arms and help one person out, and they're going to continue to pull, and then we all get to come out because we're all linked arm in arm and out. And that might sound very utopian and quite, bohemian or whatever. But I also believe that there's value in it when we realize that what you have been imprinted with is not something that I could ever hope to actually take or possess. But neither is what I carry something that anybody else can possess. So if there's something uniquely great for you and there are people for you to reach, then I don't need to be threatened by it. You don't need to be threatened by me. And we actually really, really, really do great things when we're able to be confident enough in what God has poured in us so that we can help others. Because listen to me, I've gotten a lot of clients through people, paid clients, as you just said, through people with whom I have done barters with. Because it's in the bartering process that they've been able to witness, like, oh my goodness, but you're really, really, really brilliant at this. I've just seen a complete transformation and a mind shift set, and wow, that's amazing. I have friends. I've got to get my tribe in on this because I want my tribe to be able to go where I'm going. So I'm leveling up and bringing them with me. You're great. And so this is what happens. So we have to be willing to be able to be a resource to each other.
Yes. Sis, I love it. And that's why I'm so glad we had this conversation on the podcast today, because I have to even say my line sister introduced me to you. My line sister and I met in college, but lived in Dubai at the same time. And I didn't have the pleasure of knowing you when I lived in Dubai. But
we were there together.
Yeah, we were there together, but I never met you. But it wasn't our time. That's what I say. It wasn't our time. But when I went into my line sister's Facebook group for traveling Black women, I put a post and said, anyone know chefs in Aruba? I'm planning a family vacation and I really don't want to cook on vacation. And she immediately sent your name, Instagram profile, and raved about you. And the rest is history, right? You created wonderful meals for my family over a holiday vacation that was absolutely memorable. My family is now hooked. You've done it. Now they always want a chef on vacation, and I sort of have to balance out expectations. But I do love the touch, and I love the ability that you were able to bring your culture and a little bit of local culture, taste, and flavor into our kitchen. So now it's my favorite part of the show because the name of the podcast is called The Purpose of Money. So I always ask my guests my signature question. What is your purpose for money?
It's to create freedom. It's to create the freedom to be able to not only tell my money where to go and what to do, but to be able to be a greater resource where I see that, because the same thing I just talked about, people being on the verge, is so many people with promise, people who have something special that certainly je ne sais quoi, and they're working hard, and you want to be able to say, hey, sis, you working on this? What's your mortgage? Okay, here's 6 months mortgage payment. Go, you know what I mean? Go do it. Go do it. Or so it's the ability to you're able to give more when you're able to have more. And I also teach my son a lot about giving as well. And this is, I'm also now teaching him that even in the process of giving, you also have to be able to build wealth in order to be able to give more. So you can't just give everything you have. So it's really the freedom that I want to have. And so that's also why I'm focused now on scaling my business, because I cannot operate it as a single mother. I only have 24 hours in the day and I have a child to raise. And I've got a person to take care of my whole self. So, like, for example, I now have my online cooking classes that your line sister took here in Aruba. I'm now offering those as corporate team building classes. So corporate teams as well as B2B and B2C clients could be booked for these classes as well. And I'm going to also be offering courses online as well, because we have to be able to scale in order to be able to build not only my own wealth and my generational wealth, but being able to be that much more of a greater help in the community. Well, I can't give wealth in terms of money. I give wealth in terms of service and myself. And so it is from the purpose of really seeing people maximize what it is that God has poured into them.
Absolutely beautiful. One of my best answers. So this is your opportunity to let my listeners know, where can they find you? How can they follow Chef and Steward? Drop all your handles and your website, please.
Absolutely. I'm Chef and Steward everywhere. Chef and Steward on except on Clubhouse, where I'm at Kari Heron. The blog is chefandsteward.com. You can book online cooking classes for groups, for family reunions, for your B2B, B2C clients. Get people together from differing countries, from all over the world or all over the United States, wherever you are, together safely. Reunite the relationships, because, you know, in long distance relationships, sometimes you don't feel the passion anymore. And that's what 1 year of being apart, 1.5 years during this pandemic has done to our business relationships. So these cooking classes are a way for you to come together and have fun, dance, you know, create a little jam and so on and so forth. And then when you cook together, you can't hate the person anymore, because you cook and eat with them. So it's team building that doesn't feel forced. So it feels really good and authentic. And so you can book those classes at chefandsteward.com as well. And you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on a TikTok. I'm TikToking over here. And at Chef and Steward everywhere even. So, yeah.
Love it. Guys, don't forget to check it out. Chef and Steward is everywhere, but I will make sure to drop all the links in the show notes. As usual, if you love this podcast episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. And I definitely want you to share it with anyone who could benefit from the content. Until next time, keep building generational wealth. Thanks, Kari.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Purpose of Money podcast. For more resources and information, check out my website, thepurposeofmoney.com. And while you're there, please sign up for our newsletter so you have the latest information on new episodes and blog posts. Until next time, keep creating freedom in your life today.